Welcome back to Chocolate and Spice Talk. I am Neha, your introverted calm host. Today we are diving into a topic that shows up a lot during holidays, work trips, family gatherings, and basically any social occasion. And that's drinking, eating, and the boundaries we set when we meet a lot of people.
Hey everyone, my name is Nidhi and I am your social outgoing host. Both of us have changed the way we eat and drink over the years, not because of some dramatic life event, but because the older we get, the more we care about how we feel, our energy, our mood, our hormones, and everything. But unfortunately, the world around us doesn't change with us always. So social events are still designed around heavy appetizers and buffets and happy hours and alcohol. And that can feel tricky when our habits have not
So
shifted.
let's get into it and figure out how we create those boundaries if needed and how we've handled it all our lives and how we've changed with our changing bodies and mindset. So I will start with you, Nidhi. Given, of course, I know you've always been a very outgoing and extrovert person. How have you typically enjoyed social settings, and do you think your personality has influenced it?
I mean, you have known me all my life. I've always been a very curious, experimental kid. So I did try alcohol very early in my 20s. And honestly, the whole drink and socialize and repeat kind of a culture stayed with me throughout my 20s and 30s. And my youth was very heavy on outings and happy hours, a lot of binge drinking. And that was a lifestyle then. No regrets. I truly enjoyed it, but things have started changing as I've started getting older. And there wasn't like a big moment. It's just that I listened to my body, and my body was saying, you don't need that kind of alcohol or that kind of food in your life. So at this stage of my life, I don't really enjoy alcohol. Maybe, once a quarter or something, or when I'm with very close friends. So that has truly shifted with me. So for me, navigating the social gathering has been a lot of like a mix of relearning myself and setting the expectation with others. So the thing is, when I'm with new people, they don't know my past, they don't know me, so it's easier to say that, hey, I'm not drinking, and they just accept it. But with people who have known me all my life, with them, it's a little bit harder because they remember the Nidhi, the person who was big into drinking and who would, stay late at night and have like shots. So for them, they are like, oh, what's wrong with you? Like, you used to be so much fun. What has changed? And initially, I used to feel, a little conscious, or like a little more I felt the need to explain to them, but I don't anymore. And I'm like, that's not me anymore. I have changed, and I don't over explain. And I've never been like a people pleaser. So I was like, you just have to accept it that my lifestyle has changed. So I just say that I don't do it anymore, and I let them decide whatever they want to think about it. So going back to like work events, which is very, very, even now, it's very happy hour heavy. So the way I usually deal with it is I go out, and if I feel like having a drink, I just stay with one glass of wine for the entire event. So for like 3 hours, I'm going to stick to that glass of wine. Or sometimes I even ask for tea at bars, and you'll be surprised that a lot of bars will give you teas or mocktails. And mocktails are like any kind of a drink without alcohol. I try to stay away from mocktails because they're very sugary, but like drinks or electrolytes, it works great. And that makes me feel good, and I don't have to over explain it to anybody. And there have been times when I'm in situation where people get shots, and it's just like these work events sometimes are so heavy on alcohol that they just assume that you're going to have shots. And there was like a couple of days back, there was a social event, a work event, where there were 10 of us, all of us got shots, and there was shot placed in front of me, and everybody said, 1, 2, 3, drink. And I didn't. The drink was right in front of me, and I didn't touch it. And nobody cares, nobody notices. Like, you think that people are noticing, nobody even noticed that I didn't drink my drink. And that stayed in front of me for like 3 hours, and somebody else took my shot. So that's how I navigate these social circumstances. And one example that I'll give you is recently last week, I was at a social event and we had a work thing from like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And after that, all of the coworkers again went to a bar. And I was like so tired by 8 p.m. And I said, you know what, you guys go ahead to the bar or wherever you're going. I'm just going to go back to my room. And I went back to my room, took a hot shower, did my 12-step skincare routine, read a book, and slept. So the previous me would have had this feeling of missing out and socializing because I'm such an extroverted person. I get my energy from people, and I would have stayed and I would have overexerted myself and I even would have had a few drinks. But this version of me, and I'm like so proud of this version of me the older I'm getting, I felt so happy and I felt so proud of myself that I actually didn't follow them to the bar. And I went back to my room and I was happy and I woke up feeling fresh and like so energized. So yeah, this is a new phase and that's how I navigate it. I don't look back, I don't regret, and I'm just happy where I've reached. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting. I mean, I I'm curious why, when you decided to switch from, a desire to drink more alcohol to a desire to drink less alcohol, why did you ever feel like saying no was not enough? Why did you worry, especially given you're not a people pleaser, that you have to explain it somehow? Because I've seen you do that. I've seen you try to explain
you know
it.
what? I mean, that's a very good question. And there was, I didn't think I had the need to do it, but there was one time I was not drinking and somebody said, "Oh, you're not drinking. Are you pregnant?" And that kind of uh I don't know how to explain that kind of like trigger that maybe I have to explain because they know I drink and now I'm not drinking. So is she pregnant? Why would a person who drinks choose not to drink? Because they had associated me with like drinking occasionally and so on. So and that was a moment I was like, oh, I have to explain. Oh no, no, I'm not feeling well, or it's like I'm not pregnant. And that's how it started. But then I was like, I don't need to explain myself to anybody. I'm not going to drink, and that's it, full stop. And that's what I did in my recent event. Everybody ordered a drink, and when the host, like the person came to me, is like, "What would you like to drink?" And I'm like, "Can you get me some tea?" No explanation. Everybody looked at me. It's like, "Oh my god, you're having tea with honey? That's so sweet." And I was like, "Yeah, no explanation. I'm not going to explain why I'm not drinking in a bar in a happy hour." But yeah, to answer your question, that was a point that triggered the feel for explaining myself.
It's interesting. Yeah.
And for you, Neha, like I know that you don't enjoy alcohol. You've never enjoyed alcohol. And how do you handle these events, especially the work ones where alcohol is a lot out there?
Yeah, and I'll also I don't know if it is associated with personality at all. Like in your case, you mentioned you're social and outgoing, and you kind of felt from the very early times like you wanted to experiment and you wanted to see different things. I've always been more of an introvert person who sort of is happy with I'm happy with myself, basically, right? I don't need a lot of people or a lot of things happening around me. So that might be a cause. For context, obviously, but for context for our listeners and viewers, I've never had alcohol. Like I made a decision in my teenage to not have alcohol, and I have never had alcohol. I guess like maybe once when I was 24 or 25, somebody says, "Hey, taste the beer," and I like literally took a sip, and of course it didn't taste good to me. I'd never trained my palate, nor did I wanna, and so I'd never. So in a way, things were easier for me because it was a decided thing for me. And I truly cannot explain why, because I'm also a very curious person. I like to do different things, but because I was health conscious, I had made a decision not to like get into smoking or alcohol early. And I'm like, I feel like that's gonna work better for my body, and that's what I'm gonna do. So full stop. And so imagine everything that you just mentioned that you are starting to do now. I had to do it in my teenage years and in my college phase, which are very difficult phase to navigate, because when I went to college, I mean, while I was with in high school and with parents, not a difficult thing to say no to anything. But once you go out of the house in college, then your friends and your roommates and your people around you are going out, and you are saying no to that. And so that was my learning ground already, because if I could say no at the age of 18, obviously I'm going to be able to say no now, is how I can explain it. So I remember, like, my friends would come and say, "Hey, we're going out somewhere. You want to go out for movies and we're going to eat dinner and come back?" And I would just say, "No, I don't feel like." And you can imagine the isolation that created for me, right? Because I don't know if I should regret it or not, but I really didn't have a lot of close friends. And that was a lot to do with the fact that I would not hang out. The only way you can hang out, especially in a college environment, and I was in engineering, so you had only that many occasions because it was a hard subject to tackle anyway. But in those events, I would just not go because I would be like, well, they're gonna be doing stuff like that I wouldn't want to do, or I just didn't like social gatherings anyway. And so there was a sense of isolation because I had like one or two very close friends, and that was the end of it. And then, of course, once I started working, same situation. In fact, after that, like, I knew who to be friends with. And so my social circle started being the kind of people that I was. And so it just kept getting easier and easier. And then, but like, to your point, once you start working and you go in a different phase of your career, the higher you go, the more such situations there will be where you'll be invited to places where drinks is the primary, how do I say, like a crowd pleaser. And especially once I moved to the US, and I moved to the US very early in my life, this is very typical. Like, you'll have a lot of food, you'll have buffet, which was a newer concept for me, and you have lots of drinks. And not only in work environment, even in family environment, right? Like, you go to a party or you go to a friend's party, there's going to be drinks. And again, very early even in my 20s, I'd go out for family events or friends events, and alcohol would be served, and I would say no. And I distinctly remember people would be like, "Oh, what do you mean no? What happened?" It's They'd be expecting me to tell a story, because how is it that, like, why did I give up alcohol? I'm like, no, I never wanted alcohol. I never had alcohol. So for me, it became a very simple thing. I'm like, do you want alcohol? No. And people may make a face, but I'm like, good for you. But I'm not gonna explain myself. So and yeah, I mean, to answer your question, work events, same thing. I never feel like I miss out because I go to all work events. Actually, I go to a bar. I've always done that. Like, even at my work or social gatherings, if it's gonna happen in a bar, I'm gonna go hang out in a bar. I'm gonna stay up late at night. I will just make a decision on what I'm gonna eat and what I'm gonna drink, and I'm not gonna get influenced. And that was like it, that how do I say, backbone was very strong in me from the very early times. Nobody could move me because I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I was very clear on what I wanted there. So yeah, I will say, like, I try not to miss out on work events, because a lot of work events, you make a lot of connections or a lot of decisions are made in these work events. So you want to be there. So I try to go in, but I would just do what I want to do, and it works out fine for me.
And I've seen you say no to alcohol. Like even now, people still offer you and they
Of
expect
course.
you to drink because
And
I've
even
seen
when
it.
they know, people who
Yeah,
know me,
it's true.
they know me. They know I don't drink alcohol, but they will still say, "Oh, you're not drinking," like as if suddenly I would start drinking. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen you like throughout, like you've seen me through so many phases of like
Yeah.
good, bad, and ugly. And I've always seen you like this is one place where you never had the desire to please anybody. You stood strong. Like I don't drink alcohol, and no matter what you say, no matter how many people are getting drunk around me, no, no means no. And that is like I really admire that about you. Like you and you never explain. It's like no, I don't drink, that's it, full stop. It's like, oh, people would say, oh, what happened, just have like little sip, just a teeny tiny, and you were like, no, I don't like it, I don't like the smell, I don't like the taste, I don't care. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I know you were mentioning about perception, and I think the thing that you mentioned was like other people are taking shots, and what are they gonna think if you're also not being like one with the party? Because the whole point of a party is almost everyone's doing the same thing or similar thing. And I think like that might be the hang up in saying no because you want to be one with that group. And that's where I guess like my inner personality comes out, which is like I'm okay with being who I am and being with myself. So if you think I can be part of your group as I am, I love it. Unfortunately, if you don't, then it is what it is, right?
You are lost.
um, I don't know if it's anyone's loss, but I appreciate it. I'm like I want to respect whatever anybody wants, but lucky for me, very very lucky for me, people have always accepted me as I am, and so it's been fine. Uh, but the other question I have for you is, this is all about drinks, which is obviously an interesting area to navigate. How about like dining out and buffet, and our bodies are changing? How do you handle this push to eat more or eat different things?
So I love food. I always have. I always will. And you've seen me, the previous Nidhi, you've seen the previous Nidhi eat at buffet, right? You would always be surprised, like, how does a person like me eat so much food? Because for a very long time, my mind and my belly didn't talk to each other, and I would like overeat because I didn't know it looked so much fun, the buffet, the food outside, and I would like eat mindlessly, and I wouldn't feel great. But I have put in so much work for both my mind and my belly to talk to each other, and I'm in a good place right now. And one thing that has helped me a lot is wearing this continuous glucose monitor. And that has, and this, I'm not diabetic, by the way, I this is preventative, so this helps me understand my metabolism, which food causes spikes, which food makes me feel like lethargic. And I have done so much work to really have a connection. Initially I had like no idea. I would eat something, I would be bloated, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. But now I understand, I can connect the dots and so on. So this has been like a really really effective tool in understanding nutrition. So what I do nowadays is dining out. For example, if we are going to go out and eat, like today I went out for brunch with my friends, so we knew where we were going. So I would look at the menu. So I look at the menu beforehand, and I kind of see what is something that is going to suit me. And knowing my body now because of the glucose monitor, I know that if I eat my veggies first, my protein second, fat, and then last carb, I don't, my spikes are really minimal. So that's how I like to eat. So I chose a menu. I ate fish today, and it had lots of vegetables. So I started with my greens, and then I went down to the protein and so on. So that's what I do when I'm going to a restaurant, and if I know the menu. And if there's a buffet around, then I first of all go and study all the food, everything that's in there, and I make educated decision. I fill my plate with greens, protein, and so on. And then if I'm going somewhere where I don't know what the food is going to be, it's like an event where I have like no clue what they are serving or what kind of food it would be, I actually kind of eat a nutritious meal before going, because I don't want to eat something that's going to make me feel bad. I still leave some room for like eating at, the guest, like the host place or any event. But I want to make sure that I'm not hungry when I go there, and I make like bad choices, because eventually it'll all come back to me. My hormones will be all over the place, and I won't be able to sleep well, I'll be bloated and so on. So this has really really helped. It's not about really restriction, it's about like awareness, preparation, respecting what my body needs. So this technique has really helped. What about you? Like, how do you navigate food and so on?
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, it's the way I've been, which is like I've never been a foodie. So I guess like things become easier for me because that's how my body's been trained since as far back as I can remember. And food is never the most critical or the spotlight for me, which means I can navigate my way around food far easily, in my opinion. And I've trained myself. So yeah, I do similar things as you, which is, of course, food is a more difficult topic, though, right? Like you don't have control on what, because actually you can eat most things, and if you can eat most things and if the food's in front of you, you should probably eat it. For me, it's the portion size, and I've mostly been conscious about how much I can or should eat. And so that is not a problem. Like even if I'm gonna go to buffet and you've seen me and you know how much my husband and I sometimes get into arguments over that because like I'll go in a buffet and everyone thinks it's a waste of money for me because I'm like, I'm just gonna eat my small portion size even in a buffet because I'm not gonna overeat just because I paid so much. So again, very clear on what's good for my body, no matter, you know, what the situation is. And the thing that I've started doing is very similar to you. Like sometimes, you know, pizzas are offered. Pizzas are the only things that are offered. That's something that simply doesn't work well for me because you know, dairy along with gluten and that much of fat, like it, I never feel good after that. So I have realized that now. And in that case, I will look for some potential salads or breadsticks that are kind of easier. And usually there will be such options. So I do the same thing as you, which is I will look at the menu, even if I didn't know about it before, I will look at the menu on spot and make sure I can find the things that are the best suited for my body in that given situation. And usually I'm able to find it. Sometimes I'm not able to, and then I suffer the next day. But I feel like, you know, it's okay. It's a give and take, you know, body can handle it. But yeah, because I'm used to not overdoing in the eating department, I'm usually okay. And I have a small palate, so I'm usually okay. So I don't have any specific techniques. I'll only say that I try as much as possible to listen to my body. Like if I try to be like one of those people who are like, am I 80% full? If I'm 80% full, then I'll just stop eating or I'll drink some water to prevent myself from eating, especially when dessert is about to come, which is my weak spot. And that's one area where I've had to train myself because I've been a dessert person, like bakery goods or dessert person most of my life. And I've had to be like consciously work on that to give up on sugar as much as I can. I have not been able to give up entirely on sugar. I don't wear a patch or
You like
anything.
your brownies, right?
Yeah, I
You
still
get
do. Yeah, I still do. And so, how much is too much? And without obsessing about sugar, how can I be mindful of it? That's what I'm teaching my body. So, especially when you go out on events, you're like, oh, who cares? Let me just eat it. And then, how do you be? How are you mindful? So, in my case, it's really about mindfulness more than any specific technique. But
So I don't know if this is a problem with you, but when there are family gatherings, or when when we go back to India, visit our in-laws and parents, like, food is their love language. That's how they express. That's so cultural. Like, you have been very good at saying no, and you've never been a foodie, so maybe you don't have that kind of pressure. But do you feel it?
are you kidding me? Of course, I have the pressure. With family, it's a different matter altogether, right? Like, even our mom, she knows what you like, what I like, and what we prefer. But she's our mom. So she's always going to want us to eat a lot of tasty food. And, you know, she's like, well, when you were 16, you used to love it. When you were 10, you used to love it. Why won't you eat this now? And I'm like, my tummy just cannot handle it. So there is a little bit of back and forth. And, you know, with our mom, it's okay. We can handle it. But in other family gatherings where you cannot keep explaining to people, like, oh, this makes my tummy sensitive, you know, it is hard. It is hard. But I just go back, honestly, to my first principles, which is I don't feel good about it. My body doesn't feel happy. And there'll be so many situations, especially when you go to India, right? Like, sweets is the love language. Like, Indian sweets, there are so many varieties and such amazing, wonderful sweets. And whatever the occasion, people will offer you sweets or samosas or pakoris, like that kind of thing. And and then you have to say no because, I have to say no, and I will say no. And then my my way of doing it often is like I'll just like taste it, like a little bit, so people know that, you know, I am respecting the fact that they are showing me love. I'm not going to eat the whole thing. And that's how it is. How about you?
Yeah, this one is really hard, right? Like, and especially I being a foodie, and even till like couple of years back, whatever ma would serve us, like three different kinds of sweets, and then paratha, which is like fried tortilla, or
Yeah.
stuffed things, and I would eat all of it. But I don't anymore, and I say no, and they are like shell shocked, like, what happened to you? So they kind of mourn the loss of that daughter. and they feel like I can see the disappointment in my face. Like Mark keeps saying, "You want me to make this for you? You want me to make this?" Like I still love food, but the kind of food love has changed, and it makes them sad. Uh, but I mean, you know
Oh,
me,
wow.
I'm not there to please
I
anybody. So
had not realized. See, like that is the difference in the personality thing. I don't think our mom ever feels sad if I say no because she's like, she's always said no.
yeah, she has expected, and she tells me, "Oh, yeah, Neha was here, and then she just wanted steamed vegetables or something, and she's fine." And for me, like she loves cooking so much, and I used to be eating everything. So for me, I know she feels hurt that I say no to most of the thing, which is like fried or a lot of things I used to like when I was younger. I don't like them anymore, and she kinds of gets upset and she's hurt. She doesn't express it, but I can see it on her face that she wants to cook so many things for me, but
Mhm.
my I just don't eat it anymore. But you do what you have to do. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
going to give in the pressure of just eating it even after I don't feel good. And especially in India, we go for such a small amount of time. I'm not going to do anything to fall sick or
Mm.
upset my belly.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely cognizant of the food I put in my body. And the same thing with my in-laws. It's like they want me to eat something and it's harder to say no to them, and but I say all right, no. And this, I with them I do the same thing. I taste a little bit and I just be respectful, but I don't finish the whole thing. And like my husband, like he has a hard time saying no when people are offering food, and he's eating a laddu, which is like an Indian sweet as big as his face. And just because somebody like told him 3 times he's going to eat it, I'm like, what's wrong with you, dude? That's like 30 grams of sugar.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Like because he feels the pressure, and
Mm.
he's just like, okay, I just want to get it done because you're just telling me so many times. So he just does it, and then he asks me for some digestive medicine from me. But yeah, I mean that this one is really hard. The family portion, I feel like setting boundaries with them is harder, especially around food, because of the way we were brought up. But over time, I'm it's getting easier. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you travel, I mean, you don't travel a lot, but whenever you do travel,
Yeah.
are there some habits you maintain as well?
So some of the things that I do while I travel, which I don't travel as much as you, I would love to get some tips from you. But usually, what I do is I do carry my own snacks and my own food,
Mm.
and I know that everything is can be reimbursed, and that makes the incentive is more to like eat out. But the thing is, even though airport or airplane food is fine, you can make educated decisions. But the moment you get very hungry, I just feel like you're attracted to things which are not healthier.
Yep.
And we talked about it in our food episode, like out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. Like we've stopped keeping chips or kind of like those trail mixes or that kind of sweet in our pantry just because we look at it and when we are very hungry, we made that decision. So that's what I've started doing when I travel. I carry, even if it's like just a sandwich, I keep it handy in my purse. So whenever I get very hungry, I just grab it and eat it. I carry electrolyte with me because the hydration is so important. And then even when I'm traveling, I have my multivitamins. And my sister always jokes that I single-handedly support America's supplement industry. So I have like my magnesium, my omegas, my B complex, and so on. So I carry all of that. And even even now, I was at a work event, and there were like so many snacks and so much food around. And it's unfortunate, like all of those snacks were brownies and cookies and chips. And I was so excited. I was like in a work like in a conference, and they said, oh, snacks are served. And I went outside and I saw that table, and there was like a look of disappointment on my face because I'm not going to eat all of that. Thankfully, in my purse I had some like walnuts and almonds that came in handy, because I would have eaten a cookie, but it would have made me feel so bad and I would have gotten the spikes. So it's like understanding my body and just taking an extra step to put in this work, even when I'm traveling, even when I'm in a work thing, really helps. But yeah, I mean, you travel way more than me. Do you have any tips, techniques that we can follow?
Yeah, I So I have made it my lifestyle choice almost, and I can try to, you know, get some tips and techniques out of that. So to your point about air travel, right, or any long distance travel, I am a strong believer in eating very simple and as much as possible non-processed, which means like it's probably going to be home cooked. So honestly, like suppose I have a morning flight, I will take my own break. I will cook my own break. And you know, my breakfast is not gonna be like pancakes or a sandwich. My breakfast is like steamed vegetable or lightly cooked vegetable with some rice and some protein, and that's gonna be my breakfast. And that's what I take, like in a lunch box. And then sometimes I even think ahead and take a little bit of like possible lunch if it's going to be a longer one that can carry me over. So I do that same thing. Like I make sure my mornings are I'm well fed for my morning. So either I will have eaten that and taken the flight, or I will have taken it in the flight. I'm not going to be eating outside in the morning at least. And then the other thing I had read somewhere or I'd heard it in a podcast is like it's better not to drink. And sorry, I do not have any research articles or any direct link to where I read it, but I had heard that it's better not to have coffee and all from when you're in the flight because it's not very clear if the hot water can be used as well or not. And so if I want coffee in between, I will have already like that's the one thing I buy from the airport. I'll take some coffee and potentially like maybe a muffin or something to go with it if it's a longer flight, and that will carry me over for the rest of the flight. And then when I get down from the flight, I will eat at a place. So that's how I do. Now obviously if it's a long flight like an India flight like 20-21 hours, then you will have to eat in the airplane. And then usually, you know, I mean typically those food are, you know, cooked food, at least like the food that I get, like some rice and some roti or some sandwich. And you can make some good choices there, like you can avoid things that don't work for you and avoid sweets, for example, and eat. So those are the kind of decisions I make. And then similar to your point, you know, when you're in the office or in a place that you're not familiar with and where you do not have control on the cooking, then you have to make the wisest um, decisions, right? Like, or the wisest choices um, in lieu of your own control. So, for example, I'll give you recently, I was in a similar work environment, like snacks at all sorts of fancy things, like donuts and fritters and whatnot. And I was not going to eat that. And so I was like, are there any fruits? And so I did like in a small plate somewhere distributed in different places were a few blueberries and strawberries and so on. I'm like, that's what I'm going to eat. And I also saw some nuts, like nuts you will usually also get in those what are those vending machines and all of that. So I made the decision, okay, I'm going to get some nuts, I'm going to get some fruits, and that's going to be my snacks. So that's how you sort of substitute for what you would have otherwise eaten. So that's the kind of decision I make. Like unless like I'm so hungry, I gotta eat that samosa or I gotta eat that whatever else you have, like a cake, I will not eat that. What else? So yeah, I mean, for me, like those are the things. As much as possible, I will control my food environment and what I'm putting in my mouth. And in the absence of my control, I will make the right choices or the right substitutions, thinking to my own understanding of what works for my body, which is like make sure it is not overtly processed, make sure it has protein and some and fiber like some vegetable. And yeah, those are very simple principles but surprisingly so hard to get outside when you're buying, right?
Yeah.
um but
And
then
this mindset shift, I mean, for me, they are pretty recent. It's so wonderful, right? The shift, realizing that I want to feel good so bad, like
mm,
so badly, I want to feel good in my body that I'm willing to take all of these extra steps,
yeah.
like, researching menus, drinking more water, and saying no to shots or alcohol when I don't feel like it, eating before events. So the older I get, I feel like my body deserves that respect. And I just feel a sense of pride in doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, like it's to your point, it's the mindset shift. Like for me the mindset shift is of really of food and the food choices I make. in the past, my own understanding of my body was limited. And now that I have that understanding, it has made maneuvering going outside harder. And so I don't want to go outside even more than before. But we all wanna and need to go outside, and then you have to just be very, very mindful, very, very conscious about any things you're saying yes to or no to. And I think it's doable,
Yeah,
you know.
for sure. Yeah.
Yes,
And
good,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I mean, I think we all have evolved. We all have the right to not give anybody an explanation. And the way we led our life when we were 22 versus now, I think the way we show up for ourselves is a gift.
Totally. And to that point, like what I've learned is you really don't owe an explanation for anything that you're doing for your body. Like your body is your alone to live with for your entire life, and you know it best. So you don't have to explain to anybody why you're not drinking more, or you're not eating a certain kind of food, or if your habits have changed. And you should be able to make those choices without having to constantly explain yourself or feel like you'll be isolated. We're all trying to do the best we can.
All right. It was so fun talking about this. This
Right.
topic is close to my heart, and I have put in so much work to be where I am at. So it's wonderful. So thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you next time on Chocolate and Spice Talk. You can find this episode anywhere you find the podcast, and more on our website, chocolateandspicetalk.com. We love to interact with you. So leave us a message, share your thoughts.
Totally. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.